So last step is to actually plan the next release. So you've gotten all this feedback, you get this information, from everything from Twitter, from all the SEO work you've been doing with your blogs, from Get Satisfaction, from in-app usage, from all of these things, and then you can use that to plan your next release to see great features that folks want, improve your advertising, perhaps come up with new products as well as part of that. One of the things that that is, I think, a very good thing in the App Store is that when you have a new version, the default reviews that you see are only for the latest version. So by default, when you have version 2.0 or even 0.953, you only see those reviews, which gives you a chance, if your reviews at the beginning were terrible, to actually improve those reviews. Most people are not going to say, let me look at 3 previous versions. Most people don't care about that. Some do. I actually look at that occasionally when I'm downloading an app that I'm going to use an awful lot. But you kind of have a little bit of a do-over at that point. That's really the bulk of it. This is a lather, rinse, and repeat process. You keep doing this, all of these steps over and over and over again. It's really a continuous process. Assuming you decide to continue with the app, you have success with it at the start, or you think you're going forward, you keep doing all of these steps. That's why it ends up being as much work as building the apps does in most cases. So that's what we've got. If you have any questions? Yes.
Do you ever have recruit beta testers and have them send you like UDIDs for an app and bundle in a package for them specifically before you launch?
Yes, we do that. Depends on the. We do that a fair bit, especially with business applications. We do that. We do that a lot to get testers, etc. I mean, we usually start a lot of that very early in the process. Trying to recruit folks that are potential customers. And before we build apps, we're engaging with some of those people to get a sense of, is there a problem solution fit, and then working towards what the minimum viable product might be. And depending on the nature of the app, we may do a lot of that work in beta before we go out and release that. But it depends on how complex the application is. iPad apps very often are doing more complex applications, so that's stuff we do.
But I would also suggest it's a little bit, it depends, because remember, when you put an app up there, anybody can get to it, right? So it's very hard. There are ways that people can download apps into their phone without going through the Apple Store, but they're not made for the timid. So like if you were doing more of a consumer level app, most consumers won't be able to take and put temporary software on their device, or they'll be scared because they're thinking, oh no, I'm jailbreaking my phone now, and they're not really. But if you're a developer, you understand this, but they don't. So it's kind of hard. So if you put it up in the App Store form, there's a whole bunch of other people who could do it. What I've seen some companies do is give it really bad names, like name it like it, like you would like a password generator. So it names it like A94FNZ, and then later on you'll change it to a real name so that no one will ever download it. And just put out Greeking in the description. That's what I've seen other folks do when they're trying to beta test an app. Because you got to be careful if you get an app out there and it blows up all the time or does bad things to the accelerometer or something, you get in a lot of trouble that way.
So, question: Have you started to
perceive some of the differences between iPad and iPhone? Can you talk about any findings or any interesting insights you start to discern as the split in that market or different issues that are relevant to marketing apps on those different platforms?
You know, not so far. You know, in a lot of cases, people are. I mean, there's obviously a lot of them just in terms of design. On the marketing front, I think you know there's the potential for more complex applications. People do pay a bit more for those. I personally feel that iPad apps, there are going to be some more significant business apps that are going to be on there, and there are going to be other types of pricing for that. But at present, you know, it's how long has this been around? It's been not quite a year, so it's still early stage for something.
I think that people are, up until like last week, I would have said, well, the subscription model, but people on iPads are much more likely to do subscription models than people on iPhones, which creates a different type of marketing, because sometimes you want to, with a subscription, you can allow somebody to have the first issue free, you know, as long as they give you your credit card and stuff. But now that Apple just did that, for those of you who don't know, Apple said if you have a subscription, you have to give me 30%, which for some people that's a no-go. Like Rhapsody, where they sell music, they don't actually make 30% on the transactions, so they can't. Or Amazon, they can't sell the book for 30% less because that's everything for them. They'd be out of business. So I don't know what happens with subscription models now there, but I would have thought that the iPad would offer different kind of marketing because of the subscription model. But I don't know where that goes.
You mentioned in-app purchases. Does Apple take 30% of that as well?
Correct.
It does?
Yes.
That's if you read the rules, you know, literally yes. Whether I expect that this is going to, you know, follow the typical Apple. Here's the fiat, and then kind of pull back and get more nuanced over
Is there any
time.
transaction through the Apple Store or the App Store that doesn't involve taking 30%?
Used to be, you know, in-app purchases and such, but now, you know, these new rules. I mean, these are. This is going to be. This is a little. It's early in the game for that. I mean, it sucks for a developer because, you know, the rules just change and you don't know whether that's permanent or not to do. You know, obviously, if it's something that is always being done outside of the purchasers are always outside of the app, they're not initiated from the app. That's one thing, but you know, we'll see what this evolves to, or where this goes to over the next 3-4 months, I would think.
What about using like virtual currency?
That you have to give 30% on.
You still take 30%?
Yep. Because whatever you can buy the virtual currency for, they want 30% of that. That's now again, this is all theoretical. Came out last week. They haven't really enforced it yet. And this is the kind of thing where Apple always starts out heavy-handed, and then everyone screams, and then they back off. But they always want to come on as hard as they can, and then we'll see what happens. Because they haven't, for people who are doing that, they haven't done anything yet. So we don't really know, but right now they're saying that you do.
That was publicized or something. Yeah. So, yep.
I realize pricing is probably a whole other hour-long topic, but have you found that pricing for apps follows any other kind of pricing model for a product? Like the more expensive, obviously, the less sales you're going to have, but does that follow the same kind of curve as any regular product?
Well, I mean, I think any regular product, there are a lot of different curves for different products depending on the markets and the value for that. You know, I think a lot of, there are not, just as with iPhone and iPad apps, there aren't a lot of very expensive apps, I think, that have paid down. Most of the time, if you have something that is expensive, the way you end up doing that is through subscriptions rather than through single download or through bundling. Someone where you have a suite of products or services, and only at the higher level do you get an iPhone or an iPad app. Salesforce use that bundling model.
Sure. But so even for the lower price, I mean, would you expect to get double the amount of sales for a 99-cent app as you would a $1.99 app?
Not necessarily. I think, again, it depends on. It's really hard to do apples to apples. It really does depend on the app and whether they're games and what's the nature of it. How good your marketing and your budget is probably a lot more important than purely pricing. You've got to test it, right? That's what you have to do.
Where you are in those rankings, each one of those categories behaves differently. So if you're in the top 50, yes, they behave a lot more like a standard product curve, but not many apps. I mean, it's 50, right? And I told you how many come out every day, so it's not a lot of apps that are there. And those are B2C apps. B2B apps, which are new, right? It's not a lot. Mostly do follow the curve of, well, if you're a B2B, now you go to my website and you buy my application suite, and then you get an iPhone app for free after you pay me the $1,400 a month on my website, right? Because no one pays that much for an app. So it's more of a, I'm just going to extend my application to mobile. That's how B2B is going. So it's a little bit different. And that B2B works behaves the same exact way. Because it is the same exact thing, it's just an extension.
Yep.
Along the line of pricing, have you seen any, assuming that all your marketing was in place and you could justify a price point per product, have you seen any cases where it backfires, where you release a product, you have a discount for a couple of days just to get yourself into that top 50 or 100, and you raise the price back up? Have you seen something really bad?
Yeah, that does happen, but then you readjust. Most people do not. I mean, you don't go up to the App Store every day and say, how much is this app? How much is this app? Oh, well, I'll wait till tomorrow and see how much it is. You just go and you make that decision right at that moment. If not, you walk away. Occasionally, you might do some research and come back the next day and go, why is this more or less or whatever. But generally, that doesn't happen. The way that it works is a good technique is called progressive pricing. The day it goes up to the App Store, it's 99 cents. You make it very clear that next week or on Sunday, it's going up to $1.99, and the week after it goes up to $2.99, the week after that it's $3.99. So what you're doing is you're rewarding your early adopters to give you early reviews, and it makes a lot of people who are on the fence decide the day before that they're going to do it. Because otherwise it's going to cost you more, and even though 99 cents isn't really a big deal, it's a big deal psychologically.